I am Catherine.
And I'm Gail, and welcome to Women Over 70 Aging Reimagined, our award-winning weekly podcast. Visit womenover70.com and learn how you may become involved. Join Aging Reimagined Circle and enjoy free participation in our online monthly programs. And we thank you for listening. And we'd also like to thank our sponsor, Wells Fargo, for their continuing support.
Today we are delighted to be talking with Dee Greer. She's 77. She lives in Longboat Key, Florida. And Dee describes herself as an obsessively hard worker who never rests. She's been involved in the arts most of her life. She was a college arts major and later worked as a potter, specializing in porcelain. At age 27, Dee designed her own 5,000 square foot home and then set up a rehab business in Chicago. In her 50s, Dee and her second husband moved to Virginia to raise champion alpacas on a 20-acre farm. And now, living in Florida, for the past 7 years, Dee supports the arts, the theater, orchestra, ballet. She's become Sarasota mom to the young dancers and the entire company. And she's a hostess, a mentor, and even helps young dancers get their green cards. And Dee has just completed the presidency of her homeowners association, where she has overseen rebuilding 60 condos that were destroyed in a recent hurricane. So, Dee, thank you. Welcome to Women Over 70. And I want to thank your daughter and my friend Bridget O'Shaughnessy for referring you to us. So let's begin. I think, Dee, you said that you wanted to start with talking about relationships in your life, and would like to hear about that, and why start here? Why start with relationships?
I want to start with relationships because I think the relationship I had with my parents as an only child started me down a path that has introduced me to many, many, many things. But also I grew up being an adult at age 4 or 5. I was the hostess, the second hostess at all of my mother's dinner parties. I knew all of her friends and called them all by their first names. And many of them I actually had relationships with outside of my parents. So I think that's a very special aspect of only children. It also has its downsides, but I don't really want to speak about that particularly. But I think it's how I learned to relate differently. I had 2 children, so I was able to enjoy 2 children, and it made me a child again. But also being their mom, I was able to enjoy life from a completely different perspective.
Mhm.
And I think that's that whole time of my life has been a driver in my personality. My mother was an impressionist artist, and so I grew up surrounded by the arts. She was a beautiful painter, and totally different than the way I paint, completely different than the way I paint. But as a matter of fact, I think that's part of why I paint differently to sort of have my own personality in my painting.
Mhm.
But I was the second part of my life was that I married my high school sweetheart. So he was around my parents a lot. He was welcomed in our home from the time we were 16. And we ended up getting married at 21. And I think that was, we had 2 beautiful, beautiful children. And I, I think because of our personality difference, that was another driver in my life. He was laid back and a little bit shy. And so I was forced into the position to be the outgoing driver, take care of everything, plan every trip, plan how the children were going to get from here to there. I think it made my energy level extremely high. And it has continued that way even into my 70s, later 70s. I have a very high energy level, and I don't know how to stop, and I don't know how to say no. So um, I think I think it's so important to understand people's relationships as they develop through their life, because by the time you get to your 70s, you're an accumulation of all the people you were all of your life. And what's fun about it is you can go back in your mind and be 16 again, or 18, or 22, or the day you gave birth to your daughter and the day you gave birth to your son. It's all still in there. And you can draw on it and um, draw it up whenever you want to and need to. Even though I think now I'm sort of not remembering things, but that's a whole nother story.
Well, then you can make up stories.
Then you can make up stories. That's exactly right. That's
So
exactly.
you married a second time, yes, and then tell us about that relationship.
Well, my husband and I, my first husband and I had because we've been married so long, it took us 5 years to get divorced. And during that time, I did meet my second husband. And it's kind of a cute story because my little sister from high school, I went to an all girls school in Lake Forest, Illinois. And my little sister was 2 years younger than I was. And she was divorced early in her marriage. And so she started something called Ravinia Singles. Now, you any of you that are from Chicago certainly know Ravinia.
For sure.
And so we would meet up there, and she would have all kinds of different events, but she was actually looking for a partner. So she had an incentive to start Ravinia Singles. And I met my husband I hosted a party for her, and I met my husband. I laughingly tell the story in my bedroom. He had brought a date. He was, dating someone, and he had a phone call, and he needed some privacy. So I took him into my bedroom and said, "Here, you can have your conversation in here." But that was how we met, and it turned out he was in a rather unhealthy relationship because I always say about Bill, nobody didn't love Bill. He was so sweet and generous and kind and innocent in many ways. And I think people took advantage of that. So it was part of what I fell in love with. But it was, I think, a difficult journey for him. So we met, and it took us a little while to figure out who we were and how we fit together. And then we were married for 18 years. And during that 18 years, we lived in Chicago originally, where he had a business. And it was an interesting business because he found hotel rooms for stranded airline passengers. And it was, he just wanted to do good in the world. And so we fit together because of that also. And that's one of my passions, is to give back in this world for all of the good things that have come to me in my life. And so we decided it was time for him to end that business and move on. And he had worked with a gentleman that had raised alpacas. He also raised Cavalier King Charles Spaniels, which was what I did. I raised champion Cavalier Spaniels, King Charles Spaniels. But he introduced us to alpacas. And I had an interest in weaving, of all things. And so when we went to Virginia to raise these animals, I started my weaving studies and my weaving career. So I spent 15 years doing that. And during that 15 years, I had 5 businesses related to the alpacas. So as you can see, I'm an overachiever, overextender, sort of crazy, but that's sort of makes life fun, I think, sometimes.
Darn lovable. So, what are the 5 businesses or some of those businesses? What were they?
Well, one of the things I did was I designed a loom for hand weavers. And I designed it for people that owned alpacas. So they could take their fiber, they could send it to me, I could process it at my best friend's mill. And then they could take what we called rovings. So we hadn't been taken all the way to yarn yet. And they could weave on this peg loom. And it was a design I had seen originally in England, and then I improved on it, and it became known as the American peg loom. And one of the really fun things is after I was out of the business and was no longer selling these, someone had copied my design, and I saw them at an alpaca show, and they said, "Oh my God, you're Dee Greer. You invented the American peg loom." So it was really kind of fun. That was one of the businesses. I also was a yarn designer, and because I had my friend had a mill, I would go over there, work in the mill, and help her. And then I became a yarn designer. So I would add things to my alpaca yarn and like sparkly things, sparkly parts to it, different fibers I could add. So I could mix it with, say, tencel or some other kind of material and make really interesting yarn. So that was another business. Let me see. Oh, I took all of my yarns that I created, and I had a business which was selling them at shows, the fiber shows. And I would go around, and I had my own tent, and the whole business. So that was another way that I got my product out in the marketplace. My weaving, I never sell, but all the things that I created, the yarns and things, I did have a business selling that. So that was a few of this way. As a matter of fact, one of the weavings that I'm wearing, wait, now is when I'm going to push back a little bit, and I'm going to, I think, kind of stand up, because this is really interesting weaving. It is, it's, I have it folded over because when you're a weaver, you work with weave structures, and there are hundreds of weave structures. But this is the one I've decided that I really want to pursue. And it's sort of my specialty now. So this is one of the works where you can see on this side, it shows the back side of it, and this side shows the front side. So if you open it up, that's the front, and that's the back. Completely different. I'll show you another one that I have. I have several to show you. This again, same weave structure, very small little scarf. But again, difference on each side. You can see on this one, the colors are completely different. They're interwoven, so you'll see this color like that on that side, but when you flip it over, it becomes a completely different design. So that's a fun one. This one I particularly love because these are my colors, as you can see what I'm wearing. Again, okay, this one is completely different. So this is the one side, and this is the other side. So when you fold it over like this and wear it this way, you show off both sides all at the same time.
You're not selling any of these?
No, and I'm asked all the time. Oh, I have many, 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 many more, but I just can't seem to part with them. I don't know why, because I have a friend that owns a little shop over right next door to our condominium, it says property, and everyone who sees it just wants it. And I'm like, no, I'm so sorry. But
Nice.
I guess some of the stuff I might sell someday, or Bridget will sell it for me.
Well, put my name on the list, please.
Oh, I will. I will. And here's another just quick one that you can see. This starts out with variegated yarn. It changes all the way through the scarf, going from the oranges into the greens and the blues. So you can do so much with weaving. It's so creative. I it, I went to a 5-year program up in Canada. The classes could be held down here, and the teacher would come to us. And I spent 5 years to get a master's degree in hand weaving. So this became a passion. I'm undecided at this point now because I had a loom that I had waited for many years, and it was computer generated, so I could design on my computer, and then I would plug it into the loom, and I could weave it off
Oh my goodness.
from my own designs on the computer. So it was destroyed in the flood. So yeah, just to kind of, when I say the flood, when Helene came through, I had 18 inches of water in my condo, and it destroyed all my furniture, destroyed everything. So I'm rebuilding. That's what I'm doing now. So then another thing that I enjoy doing, I haven't done it for a long time, but I loved knitting with alpaca. So this, I'll pull it back so you can see it, is one of the scarves that I knit with my own alpaca. I hand dyed it, and it's very, very soft, very fine. Here's another.
You know that you're tempting us, right? You know that,
Yeah,
right?
Here's another one, another alpaca sweater that I got.
Oh.
And you can see it's really fun. So if I don't go back to weaving, I don't know what I'm going to do. I just, I don't know, because I've done so many things. Here's a lovely alpaca sweater that I designed and knit. So this is kind of fun too. If you could feel
That.
I wish you could come in here to the camera and just know what this feels like. It is so soft. And the alpacas that I raised, we, if you're familiar with cashmere, okay, cashmere can come from a couple of different animals. However, what it has to do is be very, very, very fine. So, as in the business where they are breeding for cashmere, likewise, when we're breeding for alpacas, we want it to be the same thickness. We don't call it thickness. We call it micron as cashmere. So this is like wearing cashmere.
Mm.
It's very, 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 very soft. So,
You mentioned the flood and the hurricane, and you, I think, are back in your condo, but just barely. Is that
and
right?
I'm not allowed to stay here overnight yet until I have the last inspections, which I was hoping would be by the end of this week. So, but someone was supposed to show up today, and so far they haven't to look at stuff. So I don't know. I'm trying to hold it together.
Yeah. So tell us about this. Is a tragedy. So,
Well,
how
before I
did
get
you?
to that, I
Okay.
have one more thing, two more things to show you.
Okay.
So, I was showing Gail this before. One of the things that I did for 10 years, um, was I did Japanese beadwork. So these are amulet bags,
Oh, beautiful.
and they are all done with tiny, tiny, teeny tiny little beads, all strung on a thread, and you weave it along, and then you can add fringe on the bottom, decorate your necklace part of it, whatever way you want. Here's another one that I did, which I love this one because again, it's my colors. And this one was another one that I did.
Oh, I want to go to some fancy place where I could wear that.
I know. It's fun to wear them. Here's another one that I did. And interestingly, my mother and I did this together as adults. We went to class once a week, and there's many, many, many books to study on this. And then this is the first one I ever did. And
What's the material, Dee?
what got a sliding thing. The lid slides up and down off the top of the amulet bag.
What is the material?
It's all these teeny tiny Japanese seed beads. These are all beads strung together, sewn together. I did this for 10 years. And interestingly, I did it on the trip to Charlottesville in the car. And I put the beads away when I got there and didn't take them out again. So my life tends to be very compartmentalized in the things that I love to do. And I'm going to show you one last thing because I'm very proud of this part of my life, which I will continue doing down here in Florida. But I'm a watercolor painter. So this is one of my pieces. I want to get that far enough so you can see the whole thing.
Gorgeous.
And that's one style that I paint in. But generally speaking, I'm very precise, and sometimes it takes me a year to finish a painting. This is another one I think you'd like to see.
Just gorgeous.
Now, do you sell those?
No.
Of course not. The 6.5 months that you had to live outside of your home because of it being destroyed by the hurricane. So, and tell whatever you'd like to tell us about that experience.
I think this is I don't know if this is the hardest time of my life, this particular 6 months. As you mentioned, I was the president of our condo association when the flood happened. And so I had to gather everything together. As I said, I was the first woman president here, and the men just didn't like that. The other 8 board members, just were tough. And but I can be extremely strong. If I always say I can be the nicest person around, but don't cross me because you won't like what you find. So there were some very tough moments dealing with the gentleman, and there still are ongoing because I'm trying to get back in here, and there are now 9 men on the board.
Wow.
So, and they are challenging. They have interesting personality types, but anyway, I put that about 10 days before the end of my term. We had, and I think you said this, we had 59 units out of 103 that were completely destroyed. And of those, only 4 of us on the first floor are permanent residents. So I am going to end up being the first one to get back in, but only because I've been here 6 days a week. From right after the flood, mopping up the category 3 water out of here and on my hands and knees with all the workers. So I throw myself in fully, and I will work with anyone, but don't cross me. So I've had some major tragedies in my life. My first little boy only lived 11 days. That was a very, very difficult time in my life. It was my first child. And I would say that was the first very, very awful thing to happen in my life. And I was only 23. So now at 77, this is a different kind of hardship. It's a different kind of challenge. It's a different emotional feeling. I think that I really was very close to an emotional breakdown by the time I left the office of president, because I just was beside myself. So I've been out of the condo for almost 6.5 months now. And I've been here 6 days a week, every week, working with the people side by side with them, catching all the errors they make, because in addition to everything else, I have an interior design background. I was an interior designer. I had my own business, went to school for that in Chicago, at a school, I believe it's still there, called Harrington School of Design. And I really enjoyed that. And then I had my own business because of that. I don't even know what to say about that, except that added to the fact that I designed that home and built it with a 3.5-year-old and a 1-year-old, which I went to that home for a 1.5 years every single day, because everything was, I had to pick out from every doorknob, every hinge, everything. I was making these huge decisions. So, but it was challenging yet wonderful. And again, I get this artistic flair from my mother. And I became her interior designer. So I helped her with her home. Kind of weird to go back and forth in a mother-daughter relationship, but we all know about that.
Well, say a little bit more now about how the arts are they're still a major part of your life now. It sounds like. So tell us how you're engaged now.
Well, right now I'm simply engaged in getting this place done.
Sure.
And getting it done. The company that we're using for remediation and rebuilding actually does large projects with commercial buildings. They don't understand what people who have places here in Florida demand of their work. So it's been a struggle. And when I am done and in, I have said I would volunteer to help in any way I can, because people don't understand when they're trying to pick out everything they want for their condo. With my background, I started 7 days after the flood, picking out everything. All the appliances were destroyed. I had to pack up everything that I could that had not been touched by the water and put it in storage. And now that's all come back to me 2 days ago. And I have a lot of boxes to unpack. But where was I going with that thought? So I can't really say where I am going next. I will figure it out. It will come to me. I don't know if I will weave again. I do have another loom that I can weave on. And I've taught weaving. I taught adults. I taught children. I've mentored children. But I just don't know.
You don't know yet. You said you will continue your watercolor painting.
Yes, for sure, because I have friends here in the neighborhood, in this complex, and we meet once a week, and that's a social thing. So we go, we paint, and I really haven't had time to paint at home. You asked how I'd managed. I have a partner now that I met through the ballet, and we do all the same things: the ballet, the symphony, the theater. So it's been a really, really wonderful relationship. And he took me in. He took me in the day before the hurricane with my 2 dogs. And I'm still there. And it's like, I need my space back. I need my own things. I need my quiet. He loves music. So he wants to be listening to music all the time. And I've been here all day and not a peep, every sound heard anywhere. So he's been the salvation that helped me through this. I don't think I could have done it if I was not in a relationship. And after my husband died, I had a brief relationship that was never right. And I went a long time, doing everything on my own, alone, because I was not going to not see the ballet or see the theater. So I wish I could tell you where I'm going next. But I will find it. It will come to me, and it probably will be in some way giving back to the community. One of the things that I love about being 77, I don't know where we are with our time, but
I'm gonna have to close soon, but please
okay.
finish this thought.
Then this is the thought I want to leave you with. I had decided some years ago that I was going to say nice things to everybody that I met along the way. That people never, ever hear someone come up to them and say, "You look just beautiful today. Look at your sparkling eyes. Look at how your hair looks today." Something. There's always something that you can say to someone else that will make them feel wonderful. And so I started doing that quite a while ago, in most of my 70s, because you can do that at this age. So if I tell a young man walking down the street, "Oh my gosh, you look terrific today," I'm not flirting with this man. So I'm safe. He's safe. Everybody's in a safe environment. And I think that is really the joy of being in my 70s. And I will continue that. And I would like to spread that message to anyone listening. Try it. You will be so happy because you will be constantly receiving those smiles back. And it's so easy to do. So I guess that's the way I would like to close this.
Thank you. That's lovely. It's lovely. Thank you so much, Dee. This has just been an absolute pleasure to talk with you.
And listeners, we'd like to see more of you at our monthly online programs. Make your voice heard as together we change the conversation about women aging. And visit Aging Reimagined Circle at womenover70.com to learn more. And if you liked this podcast, we have another one to suggest to you, and that is Women's Connection. It's a nonprofit women's group with chapters around the country. Members are vibrant, accomplished women aged 50 and forward who connect around common interests, empower each other to thrive, and stick together as they travel through the stuff of life, no matter what comes their way. Visit them at womenconnecting.org.